Well, hello, all of my students. I hope you're having a fantastic day. My name is Jay, and welcome to another English lesson here on the channel, where I have the opportunity to help you with your English comprehension, vocabulary, and your fluency. Now, on today's lesson, I have another story that I have put together, and I hope that you enjoy it. But it is on what I consider to be an advanced level. And so I will read through today's story at a quicker pace, and I will not explain everything because it's an advanced story. So what I will do is I will explain certain words and phrases, but my pace is going to be a little bit faster. Now, if you want something a little bit slower, such as a beginner or immediate, or shall I say intermediate level, make sure you check out the links down in the description so you can find lessons more appropriate for you. And while you're there, make sure you check out my Parlay with Jay link. You can scan the QR code or look at the link there. And I have stories that I read to help you strengthen your listening skills. Okay. So those are some fun stories because I believe reading helps to improve your English at a little bit faster pace. All right. Now you can stick around until the end of today's lesson and I will have some quizzes for you. Let me get a sip of water because I am starting to choke. All right, so I hope you're ready for today's lesson. It's time for a little bit of learning and laughter. Let's dive into today's story. Dr. Caleb works tirelessly in the emergency room at the hospital. Each evening, he shares with his wife the bizarre and often harrowing experiences he encounters. Okay, so let's look at a few words. Tirelessly. So when you do something tirelessly, it's communicating that it takes a lot of work and a long time to accomplish something. And so we use the word tirelessly. Okay, so I might say, or you might say, I mowed the lawn in 90-degree weather tirelessly until I finished. Okay, so something that is bizarre. Here is another word we see here. Notice bizarre stories, bizarre experiences, or encounters. When something is bizarre, it's out of the ordinary, it's weird, it's unusual. Okay, so you might say, I saw the new truck that Elon Musk put out by Tesla and it looked very bizarre. I don't know if you've seen those trucks, but oh my goodness, they are very bizarre, and I think they're just outright ugly. Okay, but I think his cars look a little bit better. Okay, now finally we have a word here called harrowing. Okay, harrowing. And so when something is harrowing, it's, how can I say, it's distressing. It's often maybe violent, something that is tough to deal with. Okay, a harrowing experience. So let's look and find out some of his experiences in the emergency room. One day he recounts, or he remembers. To recount something means to remember. A story about a young boy who had managed to get a clothespin lodged in his nostrils. Oh my goodness. The child was in significant pain, and Dr. Caleb had to delicately remove it to prevent further injury. So a clothespin lodged. Now, before there were dryers, like a washing machine and dryer, I remember my grandmother used clothespins. And so we would wash the clothes and take them outside and put them on the line so the heat and the air could dry the clothes outside. And in order to keep the clothes from falling on the ground, we used a clothespin. And here you see a young boy getting a clothespin enlarged in his nose or his nostrils. Now, I must confess, when I was a child, I didn't get a clothespin lodged in my nose or stuck in my nose, but I did put popcorn kernels in my ear. And so I put them in both ears playing around with my friend, and one of them came out and the other one we could not get out. And yes, to this day, I don't remember it falling out, coming out. I just remember having a kernel enlarged in my ear. And my father was trying to get that out for the longest. So I've done some crazy things. I remember jumping on the bed and I came down and hit the railing, and there's a cut, let me see, on my eyebrow, and I had to be rushed to the hospital to get stitches. Yeah. Significant pain, very, very bad pain, significant, okay? Had to delicately remove. Notice Dr. Caleb had to delicately. So in other words, he had to carefully, slowly, without causing any other injuries. He had to be delicate, okay? Had to have soft hands to remove the clothespin from the boy's nose. On another occasion, he tells her about a woman who had a firecracker for too long or who held a firecracker for too long and subsequently lost a finger, or unfortunately. Subsequently, okay? The incident was ghastly, requiring immediate surgery to salvage what remained of her hand. Oh, that's disgusting. So when I put this story together, I just saw a clip on social media. A woman, an older woman, and I guess her husband were popping firecrackers on the 4th of July. And she was lighting the firecracker and put it in like some type of plastic container so it could explode. But instead of dropping the firecracker, she dropped the lighter, ran into the house, still holding the firecracker. And you hear a bang and she just, So I thought when I put this story together, even though that's unfortunate, subsequently she was hurt, I thought that would be great to put in this story. So, wow, there are a lot of people that have lost fingers and hands because of firecrackers, okay? Notice, requiring immediate surgery to salvage what remained, or to fix, okay, what remained. Her hand was so damaged that Dr. Caleb had to do what he could to fix her hand so she could use whatever remained. So think of it like a car that is salvaged. Sometimes it's damaged so much you can't use the door. Okay, so you try to salvage the rest of the car. I still drive the car even though the door is salvaged, you might say. So don't use that door because it's damaged. Okay, let's continue. Then there was the teenager who arrived with a severely broken leg. He had tripped over his dog while attempting to sneak out of the house for a party. Oh my goodness. So he broke his leg trying to sneak out the house after tripping over his dog. We would say that's very unfortunate. Or if someone told us that story, we might say, "Are you serious?" So when someone severely breaks a leg or a finger, it's describing that it was major damage to the person, severely, okay, greatly. There's a lot of damage. Let's continue. Dr. Caleb explains how he had to set the leg and reassure the distressed boy. Okay, letting him know, letting him know that, hey, it's going to be all right. It hurts. It looks bad, but you'll still be able to walk. Could you imagine that? Breaking a leg as a child or a teenager and wondering if your leg will work properly again. So Dr. Caleb had to reassure him. Notice he was distressed. Okay, so he was probably upset, afraid, scared. He was feeling hopeless. What if he played sports? What if he played football or tennis or was a swimmer? He probably was so distressed he thought, I'll never be able to play sports again. So to reassure him, Dr. Caleb said, it'll be all right. In about 6 weeks, you'll be able to use your leg again. His wife listens, a mix of horror and fascination on her face. So she was probably like, oh my goodness. And then she probably cringed and said, oh, that's nasty. Okay. Or that's unfortunate. She listened with horror and fascination. Okay. She is often astounded or surprised by the strange predicaments, or another word for predicament, a circumstance. Okay. So you might say, I'm in a tough predicament. If I speed to work, I could get a ticket. But if I'm late to work, I may lose my job. So that's a tough predicament or circumstance. Let's start over. She is often astounded by the strange predicaments people find themselves in. After these stories, she frequently jokes, imagine if you were a dentist. So when I last went to my dentist, I remember talking to her and asking her, what are some crazy stories that you encounter while cleaning people's teeth? And she would tell me sometimes people come in that use tobacco, and how their teeth would be so nasty and that it would be decayed. She would describe that. Then she said sometimes people would come in that smoke marijuana, and she said they may not have smoked that day, but because they smoke so often, it's all embedded in their gums and in the tissues in their mouth. And she says when they open their mouth to have their teeth cleaned, she said she just smells marijuana the whole time. So I could only imagine different professions have different bizarre stories. This always makes Dr. Caleb chuckle, laugh. Picturing the much more routine life of a dentist, a much more routine life or boring, easy or standard. Despite the chaos and unpredictability. So when something is unpredictable, you don't know what's going to happen. It's something that is left to chance. One day you could have regular patients. The next day you could have something bizarre take place. Unpredictable. So to use that in a sentence, you might say, The lottery is an unpredictable game. You never know who's going to win. Okay. Dr. Caleb feels a profound sense of fulfillment in his work. So even though he has bizarre stories, feeling fulfilled means that he's happy that he's able to help. Okay. It gets crazy on his job, but he's glad he's able to help people in their predicaments. And finally, he knows he is making a substantial impact on the lives of his patients. Substantial. Okay. A meaningful impact. Okay. So a doctor can make substantial impacts on people's lives. Teachers make substantial impacts on people's lives. Some preachers make substantial impacts on people's lives. So a substantial means a great, okay, or a meaningful impact. The adrenaline and satisfaction of emergency medicine keep him dedicated to his demanding career. Okay? Dedicated, demanding. They sound the same, but they mean something different. Okay? When you're dedicated, you're loyal. Something that is demanding, it requires a lot from you, whether it be time, money, effort. It's demanding. Okay. Now, I told you I was going to talk and read fast. This is an advanced level, so I hope you're keeping up. Now let's go through the same story, and I will read through at a faster pace without stopping or explaining anything. Are you ready? Okay. Don't forget, the story is also down in the description if you want to read it at a later time. Okay? Dr. Caleb works tirelessly in the emergency room at the hospital. Each evening, he shares with his wife the bizarre and often harrowing experiences he encounters. One day, he recounts a story about a young boy who had managed to get a clothespin lodged in his nostrils. The child was in significant pain, and Dr. Caleb had to delicately remove it to prevent further injury. On another occasion, he tells her about a woman who had held a firecracker for too long and subsequently lost a finger. The incident was ghastly, requiring immediate surgery to salvage what remained of her hand. Then there was a teenager who arrived with a severely broken leg. He had tripped over his dog while attempting to sneak out of the house for a party. Dr. Caleb explains how he had to set the leg and reassure the distressed boy. His wife listens, a mix of horror and fascination on her face. She is often astounded by the strange predicaments people find themselves in. After these stories, she frequently jokes, "Imagine if you were a dentist." This always makes Dr. Caleb chuckle, picturing the much more routine life of a dentist. Despite the chaos and unpredictability, Dr. Caleb feels a profound sense of fulfillment in his work. He knows he is making a substantial impact on the lives of his patients. The adrenaline and satisfaction of emergency medicine keep him dedicated to his demanding career. All right. Excellent job. Let's get ready for some quiz questions. And let me say, some of these words that we read, if they are difficult, just keep practicing. If you notice, sometimes I may pronounce a word wrong. Nobody's perfect. You go back and try it again until you get it right. You continue to practice until you strengthen your fluency. Okay? Let's look at a few questions that I have here. I have 4 today. Be sure to answer these down in the description. Or shall I say the comments section? I don't know why I always say description. What are some of the strange cases Dr. Caleb encounters in the emergency room? Okay. I gave 3 stories that he shared. Number 2, how does Dr. Caleb's wife react to the stories he shares with her? How does she react? Put that down in the comments section. Number 3, why does Dr. Caleb feel fulfilled in his job despite the chaos and unpredictability? Okay, that's a simple one because that was the last thing we talked about. Okay, number 4, personal question here. Have you ever had a bizarre injury? Explain. So let me know down in the comment section, have you ever harmed yourself, or maybe someone in your family had a bizarre injury? I had kernels of corn in my ear. I've sprained an ankle playing basketball. I remember one time when I was younger, when I played basketball, I bumped heads so hard with another player on the opposite team, I had a concussion. Oh, yeah. And I remember I slipped on the bed and I cut my eye and had to get stitches. So those are some of the most bizarre happenings to me. I've even slammed my finger in the car door. So let me know down in the comment section your experiences. Hey, as always, thanks so much for hanging out with me. I really appreciate you guys. Can you believe it? 7,000 subscribers. Hey, if you enjoy the content and the stories and my method of teaching, be sure to share this lesson with a friend. And be sure also to check out my Parlay with Jay, where I have stories that I read throughout the week to help strengthen your English listening skills. As always, enjoy the rest of your day, and I hope you join me on my next English lesson.